Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
The Lions offensive coordinator, John Morton, has three philosophies when it comes to offensive football. 1, protect the ball by making good decisions. 2, generate explosive plays. 3, be good on third down. I want to add a philosophy that I assume that they're going to utilize. You have to be great on fourth down. There's no more third down for the Lions in the NFL. There's just not. There hasn't been. Third down is just a normal down. It's fourth down, which is now our third down. So I would say you have to be great on fourth down. You don't want to get to fourth down, but if you have to, you have to. And we think that Dan Campbell has proven third down is just another down. We're going for it, in most cases above the 50-yard line. Now, Morton did inherit a Detroit Lions offense that's been extremely good in all phases and extremely good with those 3 points that he points out. Detroit's 15 giveaways last season were the 6th fewest in the NFL last year. So for all the hate on Jared Goff, let me say that again. The Detroit Lions' 15 giveaways were the 6th fewest in the NFL last year. Now, let that be a brain boggler because Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, twice last year? Once against the Texans, and then he threw 4 against the Commanders, right?
Yeah.
So 9 in 2 games. Now, I would say that maybe half of those were his fault, and the other half was Ben Johnson's fault for calling stupid plays at the wrong time. It is what it is. It's still only 15 giveaways, which was 12 interceptions and I believe 3 fumbles. Now, the Lions had the most 10-plus yard plays and the third most 50-yard plays generated by the offense of 24. Again, for the haters out there, I want to make sure you can hear me in the very, very, very back. Jared Goff can throw the deep ball. And yes, he can hit J-Mo in stride. He may not run a blazing 4.2, 4.40 or 4.3 or 4.4 or even a 4.5. But the broken giraffe seems to utilize his legs when he needs to. But more importantly, that dude will stay in the pocket and take a licking, and then he keeps on ticking and getting that ball out. They had the 4th best third down percentage at 47.6%. But it's the second principle, the explosive plays, that John Morton eagerly talked about when he sat down with reporters for the first time at the NFL Combine last month, where he said, quote, I think you have to have explosive plays. You have to be able to do that. I think that there's a certain amount of explosive plays you need in a game. And explosive, I always think 7 or 8 plays explosively per game is really good. I'm curious how many the Lions had on average per game. I've never looked that up. But Morton said that the offensive staff would sit down in the weeks after the Combine and under Dan Campbell's guidance. That's an important statement because what have I been saying all week, Eric, or even the last 2 weeks? This offense is whose?
It's Dan Campbell's.
It's Dan Campbell. So even Morton is saying under Dan's guidance, they're going to sit down. They're going to create a scale for how they log explosive plays internally. And Morton said that he usually views a pass play of 16 to 17 yards or more and a run play of 10 to 12 yards or more as explosive. Now, I didn't look this up before we started doing this, but I think the explosives in the NFL right now is over 10 yards pass play. Either of you remember?
I do not.
I'm going to look it up here really quick.
Yeah,
too.
I'm working on it.
Maybe somebody in the chat can help us out too. So,
okay. So, here it is. It's a run of 10 or more and a pass play of 20 or more. So Morton wants to back it up 15, 20% on the pass plays. I mean, that would just generate more numbers internally. But for the NFL, it's obviously 20 or more, which honestly, Jared Goff and this Detroit Lions offense has been one of the best at explosive plays. So I don't know if you want to really back it up a few yards. I mean, I guess whatever you do internally is what you do internally, but from the NFL scope and what every other team is doing, that's how they measure it. But again, you have your own internal ways of calculating things as to how good your offense is operating. Now, the exciting part for Morton, obviously, clearly, it's the weapons that he's going to have that's already built inside this offense to accomplish any goal that they're going to place on the 25 season. The Detroit Lions led in 24 with the most touchdowns of 20-plus yards, followed by Philadelphia Eagles had 18. The Lions had 18 touchdowns of 20-plus yards or more. Philadelphia had 17. Cincinnati had 15. From a run game perspective, Jahmyr Gibbs had 41 runs of 10-plus yards. It was the most among NFL running backs. 16.4% of his runs gained 10-plus yards. That's insanity. Matter of fact, I just got to do it. Oh, no, wrong one.
They give it to Jameer. Big hole. There he goes down to the 20-yard line. Angling to the 15. Gone, baby. 5. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 25 yards.
Well, guess what? That was an explosive play. So, look, he topped the league. David Montgomery also added 17 of 10-plus yards. Now, imagine for just a moment that if this wasn't a 50-50 backfield, it's pretty much what it's been. I think it needs to be 70-30 this year. Gibbs needs to have 70% of the plays. Last year, it was like they would trot out Montgomery for the first possession, Gibbs for the second possession, and they'd get the whole possession. Maybe when it got inside the red zone, they started to switch a few things up. You'd see Montgomery maybe come back in for short yardage, goal line work. But then you notice that Gibbs on the short line, short yardage, goal line work was even better because you get him on the outside, no one's touching him to the corner of the end zone. And we've seen it a few times. Matter of fact, Eric and I were sitting right there at the Seattle game, I believe, when Jameer Gibbs was running up the center, spun, and then came out and did the Barry Sanders move to the corner of the end zone.
Yep.
That was the Seattle game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. So anyway, I think that you've got to give Gibbs more touches. You have to. The guy's way too dynamic of a football player. But it's the run game that Detroit has obviously built on both toughness and big play potential, which puts a ton of pressure on opposing defenses. Morton said that will continue to be the focus when he and the run game coordinator and offensive line coach Hank Fraley sit down and build the run game plan for 2025. Morton also said that he has been a passing game coordinator in the college and NFL ranks with New Orleans and Denver and served as the offensive coordinator for the Jets in 2017. It was obviously a failed experiment, but he had a shitty offense, like nobody. He's got a terrific mind for offensive football, and particularly getting the most out of the passing game is what he was able to do in New York with a terrible roster. Quote, he's super passionate, and he works his tail off. This is what Sean Payton had to say about John Morton. He's great with film study and ideas. He's one of those guys that will bring you red zone, third down, and a lot of information, end quote. Now, Dan Campbell also said that Morton was instrumental in putting the original version of the offense together in Detroit in 2022. Doesn't that make a whole lot of sense? So he was one of the original artists, if you will, on this amazing label, the Detroit Lions, and built multi-platinum hits since 2021. But he was part of what this original version of this offense was supposed to look like after Anthony Lynn was gone. Dan Campbell was obviously a big part of that as well, still is. I think it's more enlightening now than it was before at the hire. The reason why they're bringing him back is because he helped build it from the beginning. And now it's evolved, and it's so much better than where it started. And you have all these pieces that you didn't have before. It's almost like a kid in a candy store. Like I remember going to the candy store down in Boone, North Carolina, by my mom's house. And it's just called the General Store. And you walk in, man, it's just those big whiskey barrels, big 55-gallon like whiskey barrels, all wood, like Jack Daniels type barrels, just loaded to the top with all sorts of candy. And there's like hundreds of them in there, in bins and stuff hanging. I mean, just thousands of different types of candy from all over the world. That's what it's got to be like for John Morton walking into this offense right now. It's like a 9-year-old kid. You walk into the store and it's like, holy cow, I'm going to lose all my teeth today. So anyway, quote, he was a pivotal piece helping us put this together, this offense version for Jared Goff with Goff, Campbell said. So that was big. But then also we were so many things that during the game plan and weeks of game plan, the ideas that he had in the past game, going into weeks, getting ready for opponents was big for us. A lot of things we used, man. Look, I'm excited. Now, I'm excited to see where this evolves. Obviously, Detroit is one of the top teams in the NFL with explosive passing threats in the league last season, in the fourth year. Now for Jameson Williams, I think that he has to capitalize on J-Mo. He has to be able to utilize J-Mo in a very dynamic version of himself and what he's already been. It needs to be better. J-Mo had 5 touchdowns of 50-plus yards last season that tied for the NFL lead. He had 17.3 yards per reception and was second best last season. Williams had 17 receptions of 20-plus yards last season, and his average alone already fits, obviously, into Morton's parameters of this new explosive play metric of 16 to 17 yards. So you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you still have Sam Laporta, Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery. What more can you ask for?
Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.